So welcome back to another video on SQL. And here we are going to look at the create table command that we discussed in the previous video a little bit more. So let us start with a particular schema that we have. This is the schema which is already given in the textbook of El-Masri Nawate. So this is the company database, and this is the schema for that company database. So if we look at the employee relation here, so you can see employee has got these attributes and it has the primary key of SSN. And if you remember the notation of relational algebra, a relational model, then you can see that this is a foreign key and super SSN is a foreign key, which is referring to SSN in your in the employee table itself, and DNO, which is referring to the D number of the department table. So when I create the table for employee, I will have to specify the foreign keys for super SSN and for DNO. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you create a foreign key, you have to specify the referencing table, the table which is being referenced. So if I create the table employee, if I write the command to create the table employee, there I specify the foreign key for DNO. I will write it as foreign key DNO references department D number. Now, when I write that command and I execute it, the DBMS will look for the table department. It will have to find the table department. So it means that the department table must be created before the employee table. Only then the command, create table command, will be able to find the referencing table. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Okay, but then there is a catch here. In this particular table, you can see we have super SSN. Super SSN is also a foreign key, and it is referring to which table? The same table employee. So now, how do I add this super SSN as a foreign key when I'm creating the employee table for the first time? So, as I said, when you specify a foreign key, it must have the referenced table must be already existing. So when I create super SSN as the foreign key, I cannot say references employee SSN because the table has not yet been created. We are creating the table. So it's like it is like a reference to itself. So what should we do in such a situation? So let us see how we can handle these situations. So first of all, let me stop this presentation here, and then we will try to do this in a different manner. So here we have in our MySQL workbench. So we already have a sample DB as the schema. And inside this schema, let me create a table called employee. So I'll use create table command. And let us give the columns fname, varchar 15, not null, minit is char. I'll leave it as it is. Lname, varchar 15. This also not null. SSN, char. It's 9-digit. Okay, this is also not null. By the way, when we specify this as the primary key, by default it becomes not null. Then we have sex, which is char. Then we have address, which is where character P. This also let us give as not null. And then we have salary as salary was decimal. Two. And put a comma after this. After every column, we put a comma. And then we have super SSN, which is char 9. It is, since it is going to be a foreign key, it has to be the same as SSN. And you have DNO, which is of type int. So here I have all the columns. Now let us put the constraint primary key, which one is the primary key? SSN. So now when I create this, I have super SSN, which is going to be a foreign key, and DNO, which is also going to be a foreign key. But I do not have a table for department, so I cannot give the reference. Similarly, employee table has not yet been created, so I cannot give a reference also for super SSN. So let us try to execute this and see what happens. So we'll execute it from here. So there you can see it says create table. It has been successfully created. I can view it here. So let's refresh this. This already has some other things. So here in employee table, you can see these are the columns. Now we have done this, but then I would like to put in the various the different foreign key constraints. So before we go to the foreign key constraint of super SSN, now before we go to DNO, let us first look at this super SSN. Now already we have created the employee table. So now I can create a constraint specifically for the foreign key, and then I can add it to the table. So what I am planning to do now is I'm going to alter the table and add a new constraint. So to do that, I will use this command, alter table. Alter table is the command for modifying a table. So here, let me say table employee. We are going to modify this. And what are we going to do? We are going to add a constraint. So we'll write add constraint. Add constraint. Add constraint. And what is the constraint that we are going to add? I want to give it a name. I'll have to give it a name. So let me call it super SSN underscore foreign key. So what is this constraint? It's a foreign key constraint. So I'll write foreign key. Which one is the foreign key? Super SSN. References. Which table? Employee table. Which attribute? SSN. This column. So we have written alter table employee. So we are going to modify the employee table. What are we going to do? We are going to add a constraint. We have a constraint here. And here specifically, I'm going to give a name to the constraint. This one is a name for the constraint. So this constraint, you can give a name also. So constraint, which name of the constraint is super SSN. Then foreign key. The constraint is a foreign key constraint. Which one is the attribute? Super SSN, and it references employee SSN. So let us execute this. So this, I'll select this and then I will click on this icon. So let's see whether it is executed or not. Yes. So this has been done. Now let us see. Let us refresh and see. Let's refresh this table. And you can see here, super SSN is highlighted. So super, it means that this is a foreign key now. So this is a foreign key. So alter table, add constraint, this. So using this, alter table command, you can add constraints, you can remove constraints also. Removing a constraint. So right now, the table employee has two constraints. One is a primary key constraint, SSN, and it has now we have altered the table to add another constraint, which is a foreign key constraint. Okay, so you can keep on adding as many constraints as you want. And you can also remove constraint. How will we remove the constraint? Again, we'll use alter table employee. Now, since we're going to remove a constraint, we'll write drop. Drop is the command. Drop what? Drop constraint. Drop constraint. Now here, one point to be noted is that you can only drop a constraint for which you have given a name. So like now employee table has got one constraint, which is super SSN FK underscore FK, and it has got a primary key constraint also here, but it does not have a name. So when we want to drop a constraint, we have to make sure that we can drop only a one with your name, the one where the constraint is given a name. So I cannot drop this primary key constraint. I can drop a super key constraint like this. So let me drop this super. I'll add it again, SSN underscore FK, alter table, drop constraint. So as you can see, this is the current representation. So SSN is the primary key and super SSN is a foreign key. Now, if I execute this command, let's execute this command. Okay. Yes, this has been successfully done.